Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Rosalind Fischel, who is Vice President of the Great Synagogue and also our Master of Ceremonies for this evening. Rosalind.
Your Excellency, Sir Nicholas, Mr. Premier, Mrs. Carr, Rabbi and Mrs. Apple, our President Herman Eisenberg, distinguished guests, welcome to a fond farewell, a very special opportunity to pay tribute to our esteemed Rabbi Raymond Apple and Mrs. Marian Apple on their retirement after 32 years of outstanding service to the Great Synagogue. This evening we have for you a banquet of extraordinary entertainment, which I am sure will prove a far more relaxed way to spend a Sunday evening than watching last week's Australian Open tennis final. Tonight, we are all winners. Inside this beautiful souvenir program produced by Playbill, through the generosity of Mr. Brian Nebenzahl, you will find some very fitting tributes from the Prime Minister, from the Chief Rabbi of Great Britain, and Emeritus Professor Clive Kessler. Our own President's tribute, which was delivered at the special Thanksgiving service for Rabbi Marian in early December, is printed on a separate leaflet together with the names of contributors to the Rabbi and Mrs. Apple Testimonial Fund. In the souvenir program, you will also find a short biography of Rabbi Marian, as well as an address that Rabbi gave, which captures the essence of his belief. I am sure you will find this fascinating reading. However, at this moment, may I draw your attention to page 10, which lists the numerous courses we are about to partake of during our banquet of entertainment. And thus you will appreciate that I must move straight to the hors d'oeuvres, and in doing so, I call on Ben Selinger to give the formal welcome.
Rabbi and Mrs. Apple, I am delighted to welcome to your special farewell party our distinguished guests. Her Excellency Professor Mari Bashir AC, Governor of New South Wales, and Sir Nicholas Shahidi. The Honourable Mr. Bob Carr, Premier of New South Wales, and Mrs. Carr. Councillor Marcel Hoff, representing the Lord Mayor of Sydney. Our new Great Synagogue Senior Rabbi, Rabbi Jeremy Lawrence and Mandy Lawrence. Great Synagogue Rabbi Mendel Castell and Sippy Castell. Rabbi Mordechai Gutnick of Melbourne, representing the Organisation of Rabbis of Australasia. Cardinal George Pell, Archbishop of Sydney. Cardinal Edward Clancy, the former Archbishop of Sydney. Cardinal Edward Cassidy. Bishop Donald Robinson, former Anglican Archbishop of Sydney, and Mrs. Robinson. The Honourable Gordon Samuels, former Governor of New South Wales, and Mrs. Samuels. Our patrons, Rodney and Sylvia Rosenblum, and Norton and Stevie Whitmont. Our benefactors, Brian and Jocelyn Nebenzahl. Distinguished rabbis and other members of the clergy, interstate visitors, Rabbi and Mrs. Apple's family and friends. We also welcome the representatives of many communal organisations. There are many congregants and friends who have apologised for not being able to join us this evening, but we would especially like to mention General Peter Cosgrove, Head of the Australian Defence Forces, Justice Murray Gleeson, Chief Justice of the High Court of Australia, Archbishop Harry Jensen, Anglican Archbishop of Sydney, Reverend Dr. Gordon Moyes, Superintendent of the Wesley Mission, Emeritus Professor Clive Kessler, and the New South Wales Jewish Board of Deputies President David Knoll, who are committed to a conference on anti-Semitism in Melbourne, and Rabbi Jeffrey Cammons, who is away on leave. I bid you all the warmest welcome on behalf of our President Herman Eisenberg and the Board of Management of the Great Synagogue.
Thank you, Ben. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I have great pleasure introducing a very special lady whose presence here this evening we value enormously, who always brings grace to every occasion, and who has proved a good friend of the Apples and indeed all the congregation of the Great Synagogue. Our beloved Governor of New South Wales, Her Excellency Professor Mari Bashir AC, Your Excellency. Thank you. Rabbi Apple and Mrs. Apple, Hon Bob Carr, Mrs. Helena Carr, Mr. Herman Eisenberg, Mrs. Eisenberg, Mrs. Fischel, Rabbi Lawrence, so many distinguished guests, representatives, high representatives from other churches. It is a great pleasure and indeed a great privilege, albeit one tinged with sadness tonight, to farewell Rabbi Apple and Marian. Rabbi Apple is Senior Rabbi at the Great Historic Synagogue of Sydney, a position he has held for 32 years. Rabbi Apple, supported by his very dear wife, has made an incalculable contribution to Australian society, and particularly so in New South Wales. Rabbi Apple has been, indeed will always be, a leader who exemplifies the most worthy qualities of the human character, qualities to which we should all aspire. Acceptance of and sensitivity to others, regardless of class, creed or social background, and an unwavering commitment to reconciliation and certainly to building bridges of understanding across all sectors of our society. There is no doubt that Rabbi Apple has given inspired leadership over a very critical period to the Jewish community of Sydney and beyond, providing a continuing source of spiritual strength. Because of the depth of his wisdom, which is derived from so many sources, the richness of his faith and Judaic teachings, his scholarship and academic prowess, and his reflectiveness passed on through his great contributions to Jewish and historical literature and through the popular media. In this age of continuing divisiveness and terrible conflict, despite our knowledge of the inhumanities of the past, Rabbi Apple has stood tall and steadfast as a beacon of hope for the marginalised and distressed, and for those who have despaired of peace on earth. As founder, past president and active participant in the New South Wales and Australian Council of Christians and Jews, together with the dialogue he has forged with the different Christian denominations and also Muslim, his courage and genuineness have opened pathways once considered absolutely impossible. I have mentioned but a small portion of his outstanding service and his legacy by example to our city, our state, our nation.
A grateful community has attempted to express its appreciation with numerous awards and honours, including that of Officer in the Order of Australia. And Mrs. Apple has not only been a most wonderful rabbi's wife, like her husband, she has reached out to those in need and also contributed to academic scholarship at both the University of Sydney and the University of New South Wales. Rabbi and Marian, you will both be greatly missed by all, and on behalf of the good people of New South Wales, we all wish you both great joy in this next chapter of your life, wherever you may be. Safe passage and precious time with the children and the grandchildren in order that they may grow further, regardless of age, in the richness of your wisdom and love. I am now delighted to unveil the portrait of Rabbi Apple, painted by Robert Carr.
As a token of our gratitude. Thank you. For those of you who are wondering, this is a photographic representation of the original portrait by artist Robert Hannaford, commissioned by the synagogue, which was part of a travelling art wall exhibition of 2003. We needed the portrait for our own exhibition, our A.M. Rosenblum Museum, and thus the photograph replaced the original for that period. Looking at it, I am reminded of those famous rabbinic words, "What do you want from my life?" Well, Rabbi, tonight we want nothing from you except for you and Marian to sit back and enjoy the accolades and the entertainment. Our entree this evening is provided by Pro Musica, who have already entertained us in the foyer whilst taking our seats. May I introduce Robert Seck, Joanna Seck, Jackie Cronin and Michael Wikarek, who will play Mozart's Divertimento No. 1 in D major, Allegro Andante Presto. Our palates are now ready for more delights, but at this point, may I take the opportunity of thanking our patrons of this farewell reception, Rodney and Sylvia Rosenberg and Norton and Stevie Rimont. Norton's shaking his head, he doesn't like this, but I do have to say this because their continued devotion to the Great Synagogue is an example for us all. A special thank you also to our benefactors Brian and Jocelyn Nebenzal for their support of this event through the publication of this beautiful souvenir program, and to all the sponsors and communal organisations featured in it. I want to personally thank Bill Wiggett, I'm not sure where he's sitting, but Bill, thank you for helping me obtain these sponsorships, and I wish you Bashir Korok. And now back to our menu. Our next offering comes in the form of Premier Plum. I'm not sure if this is the first time our Premier has been associated with the course on a banquet menu. I suspect it is, but we hope he will forgive us, play on words. It was irresistible in the context. Seriously though, we are indebted to Mr. Carr and the Government of New South Wales for their generosity in helping us restore our beautiful heritage building. And we are delighted to have him and Mrs. Carr as honoured guests this evening to pay tribute to our Rabbi and Mrs. Apple, who are part of our heritage, but not yet in need of restoration, we hope. The Hon Bob Carr MP, Premier of New South Wales.
Her Excellency Professor Mari Bashir, Sir Nicholas Shahidi, Rabbi and Mrs. Marian Apple, Herman Eisenberg, His Eminence Cardinal Pell, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Of those religious leaders who've left their mark on this city as people's memory, through the strength of their faith, the force of their personality, or the sheer length of their tenure, I'm thinking among Catholics of Cardinal Gilroy, Cardinal Clancy, among Anglicans of Archbishop Marcus Lowe, among Protestant Christians of the late Reverend Alan Walker, none has won deeper respect, none has won a firmer place in our hearts than Rabbi Raymond Apple. For 2 years, spiritual leadership, of wise counsel, of active public work, of pastoral care, of scholarly engagement,